Welcome to Africa Insight, Political Focus. My name is Louw, Senior Political Analyst at Oxford Economics Africa, joined by my colleague Jervin Naidoo. This week we look at events in Egypt, Mozambique and Nigeria, but we also talk about two countries that consider each other mortal enemies, that being Ethiopia and Eritrea. We start in Cairo, where an emergency Arab League summit took place on March 4th to consider a reconstruction plan for Gaza. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and others laid out a plan that was explicit about preserving the Palestinian people's right to rebuild their homeland and ensures they remain on the land. As such, the plan offers a rebuke of Donald Trump's idea to resettle Gazans in Jordan and Egypt, a proposal al-Sisi will not, or perhaps cannot, entertain. Familiar divisions within the Arab League were on display as the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Algeria all skipped the meeting. The plan, though, is a positive first step, even though critical questions remain. The most important of these are who will fund the reconstruction. The plan is projected to cost about $53 billion, and funding will only be discussed in April. And of course, who will govern Gaza over the next 5 years. According to the plan, a committee of non-political technocrats called the Gaza Administration Committee will govern instead of the Palestinian Authority, and the UN will deploy a peacekeeping force. Now, Jervin, there were positive talks in Mozambique too. On March 5th, President Daniel Chapo and opposition leaders gathered in Maputo to sign a political agreement aimed at finding a solution to the country's post-election crisis. Conspicuous by his absence, though, was the losing presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane. He was busy protesting in a different part of the city when police opened fire on his supporters, injuring more than a dozen. The agreement sets the stage for a national dialogue, which Mr. Chapo promises will be inclusive. However, without Mr. Mondlane, the talks will be everything but. In February, Mr. Mondlane severed ties with Podemos, the previously unrepresented party that went on to finish second and become the official opposition. His supporters now say that Podemos, Renamo and others have simply been co-opted by the regime, and the national dialogue will be a expensive talk shop. What's on your plate? No.
Yeah, so Louw, in Nigeria, very interestingly, River State is the center of the latest political drama in the West African nation. This is after the state's Independent Electoral Commission scheduled new elections for August 9th after Nigeria's Supreme Court annulled the 2024 polls. This comes amid a deepening rift between Governor Simeali Fubara and his former ally, ex-Governor Nyesom Wike, who also happens to be his godfather and who is now a minister in President Tinubu's government. The tensions between the two form part of a broader struggle for control within the People's Democratic Party, that's Nigeria's second largest party. Mr. Wike is leading one of the three factions vying for control of the party, while Mr. Fubara backs another and doesn't want his godfather in charge. Ultimately, the greatest beneficiaries of these internal PDP conflicts are Mr. Tinubu and his ruling APC. In the Horn of Africa, tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea are heating up after Ethiopia's former president, Mulatu Chom, accused Eritrean leader Isaias Afwerki of trying to reignite conflict, likening him to a pyromaniac. Interesting words there. The tensions are twofold. Eritrea, which assisted Ethiopia during the Tigray War, have felt sidelined by that peace deal, as some of their territorial concerns have not been addressed. They believe some parts of Tigray belonged to Eritrea and were part of it before Italy colonized the country in 1890. The Eritreans also have concerns over Ethiopia's much publicized push for sea access, and they are concerned that Ethiopia is still pushing for historical rights to the Eritrean port of Aswan, lost after Eritrea's secession in 1993. On the Ethiopian side, they have issues with the fact that Eritrean soldiers are still in Tigray, even though they're supposed to have withdrawn. There are also concerns that the Eritreans are supporting a faction within the Tigrayan Liberation Front with the aim of destabilizing Ethiopia, which Eritrea denies. The breakdown in trust between Ethiopia and Eritrea is another destabilizing force in the Horn of Africa, just as Ethiopia and Somalia are trying to mend their relations over the contentious Somaliland port deal. A full-blown war is unlikely, but with both nations on edge, any misstep could lead to more destabilization in the Horn of Africa. And I think let's leave it for there, Louw.
Thank you for joining Africa Insight this week. If you'd like more information on our products or services, please visit our website or socials.